Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Mindustry Chat where faith meets with creativity. On this show, we explore the intersection between Christianity and art, and then we delve into the contrast that makes it very fascinating. My guest on the show this episode is a professional bass player, and he's been on this game for a while. On this episode, he's going to be sharing his music journey, his bass guitar playing, and how he's been able to manage the intersection between being a musician and his faith as a ministry on the guitar. My friend, my brother, you can't argue this with me, is one of the best bassists that Nigeria has exported to the world. Fact check me anywhere. The one and the only. We call him Koko Bass. Brotherly, welcome on the show this evening, man.
Thank you so much, Baba
Yeah,
C.
yes,
Thank you so
sir.
much. It's good to be here, man.
So,
Yes, sir.
yes, sir. Koko Bass, is that your name?
Yes, sir.
If it is not, how
Absolutely.
did that name come about? So let's stop.
Okay, so um, my real name is Praise Akpan. Praise Ito Akpan.
Hmm.
I'm from the south. But Coco came from that was more like a house name. They usually give people anybody who looks like their parents. Uh, Most especially if you look like your dad, they call you Coco AP. If you look like your mom, they call you Coco Ma, right?
Ah,
Can you hear me?
wow. Yes, I can.
Okay. If you look like your mom, they call you Coco Ma. So that's how everybody. That's how I grew up. The people around me have always known me as Coco. Then growing up to be a bass guitarist, it was just at the time. Let me say our generation. It was easier to just add bass to the instrument I played to the name. And then it was, of course, if you tell
Makes
people praise, Coco is catchy. So it was being
makes
a
sense.
household name. It was just easy to adopt. Yeah.
Makes sense.
So that's it.
Makes
Yes,
sense.
sir.
Makes sense. Because I've only wanted to ask you that question. I just felt it was a nice place to ask. So I'm sure a lot of people who follow your YouTube pages, who follow your ministry and your bass guitar playing would also have been wondering, is that his name? Or where did he get it from? So I mean now anyone who is watching this episode would now understand
Correct.
where the name comes from. Let's talk about your music journey. How did music in itself start for you? And then we get to how bass guitar came into the picture. Where did you pick it from? Are you from a music family like a lot of people say? Some say they started music from their mother's womb and all of those things. So how is it for you?
So if I have to be honest, I'm not from a completely music family. But my mom was always in the forefront of the choir, the classical choir,
Ah,
so to say, women fellowship, yeah, and all of that. So let's just say a part of it is inherent, like is is factory fitted. Let me use that word. Because when I look at my son now, I've not been official about teaching him music, but I see him do things that I did when I was small. And then it just occurs to me that you can actually give birth to somebody with some of these gifts, in them. But I've always been in church. My mom was, in the choir, women's fellowship leader. At every point, we had to be. I've always loved, you know, you know. I believe every child likes to touch one instrument or the other. But
mm,
officially, right from my secondary school days, I know I started playing the drums sometime in 1990, maybe seven. Yeah. But for the bass, 1999, I picked up the bass. I started being, a bass player from 1999. That's a long time,
wow.
pretty long time,
Wow.
but very early. That was at an early age. I was like
Mm.
maybe 17 or so, 16. Yeah.
So
So
what
that's it.
since the moment?
And then it's been
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
honestly, and then it's been a journey since then. Basically, you know how you're just born and you know that this is probably what you're supposed to be doing. Try other things, but not like they didn't work. But you're in an office and you're scoring music. You're here and you're thinking music and stuff. You just can't run away from it or couldn't run away from it. So I've just been there all this long. Thankful to God for that.
I mean, so for you, since the moment you picked the bass, has it always been church? Has it always been gospel? Or I mean, it was just purely music, and then at some point you decided, oh, let's go gospel.
Okay, so I picked up the bass in church, and to be honest, I have not had that conviction to. I won't lie. Maybe I played one or two secular gigs, maybe one that I remember clearly in all of this journey. But I started in church, and beyond being beyond being a bass player, it's more a ministry. It's more a spiritual thing. We're minstrels. So I'd say it means much more than just being a bass player. So It's just been church. It's been church. I've not had that. There are times I try to. I've been like, okay, let me just see if I could do covers of secular songs. But you know how you just don't. It's not working.
It
They're
wasn't
simple
it
songs.
wasn't
You could
gelling.
play them easily. Have a lot of traffic. Uh, yeah.
Mm,
So that's it.
mm. So let's as a musician, how do you define ministry? How do you define your ministry, and how has it intersect with your career? Of course, I mean, for how long that I've known you, and for how long you have just told us that you've been on the base, and I've also heard you speak about ministry now. Has it been for you purely ministry, or would you say you are a career musician and a career bassist? I mean, so if it is one of the two or both of them, where have you been able to, what's the intersection for you between the career of music and then the ministry?
Okay, so first of all, the whole ministry thing just simply means understanding that your gift should be used for
Mm,
God to win souls first, to bless lives. All right, you are more a vessel. You're a vessel. You're not
mm,
just everything you do as a musician is supposed to be just like the pastor on the pulpit preaching.
mm,
Could heal, could save somebody from depression, could get somebody off their wheelchair. It's it's spiritual. So it's not just about the base. You are a
mm,
vessel to be used by God at every point. Not just even in church. Every time somebody picks up a material you are in, it's supposed to be a blessing to that person, one way or the other. And then from the career path, um, there's a thin line between saying, okay, it's ministry, you don't put in the work that professionals put in. I think the only thing I've not done musically is to like go to a music academy or study music in the university and stuff. Apart from that, my regiment is as strict as a soldier in a soldier's regiment. I don't play with practicing, improving myself,
yeah.
exposing myself to world class music. I'm in Nigeria, in Africa. I love everything about Africa. I do a lot of African music, but I don't let it stop there. And then I try to interact with people who are, the game changers in this industry right now. So it's not just it doesn't just stop at being ministry, okay, in your church, you just play this kind of music. So this is all you should know. No, I try to just like you go to the gym. I try to make sure
Yeah.
every part of my muscle musically is stretched. Exactly. If I have to know this, I know it. I try to know the rudiments of music. I may not have been schooled for it, but I try to make sure I'm as professional as possible. So I would say that's the career part.
Mm.
And it pretty much I've not had to work. Uh, Music is basically all I do. Okay, I started doing videography a bit recently, but before now, it's been what I talking about it being like a career. It's been what I have been all about. Somehow
Fantastic.
God, it helps me. It puts the bills, it puts food on my table too. And then most importantly, it blesses people out there, touches lives, which is like the most fulfilling thing, you know,
For you.
knowing that the little thing you do from where you are can encourage somebody to get up from that depressed state, to get up from that sick bed and all of that. It's always a blessing, always.
Fantastic. I mean, you were talking about interacting with game changers across the world and all of that. Let's talk a little bit about your musical influences as a basis, the basis who have influenced your style of play, your music, especially at the time that you started, before you got to where you are now. So, who are those people? I mean, that you call your influences, mentors, if you like, or role models, people you have picked from before you now got to this point where you now interact. I mean, there's been a process of learning, and then there's now a process of interacting. So take us through that journey.
Okay, first of all, the person that made me pick up the bass guitar is Abraham Laborel. I don't know if the people of this
Ah,
generation will know him. Yeah, but
integrity
that's where,
music.
yeah, Abraham Laborel of Integrity Music. That's where actually all started from. Let me say I was like a drummer then, but I was in church, and then I just ran into a video of one very elderly man. The joy.
The joy on his
I think
face.
what caught me wasn't even what he played first. It was it was it was him giving everything to me. I was like, no, I have to do what this man does. So that's how I got attracted. I knew it was the bass. Of course, I could hear it. Because I was already an existing musician. But that
Mm.
that that just gave me like that pushed me into okay, let me pick up the bass and learn. And so I would say that was like my number one. That's my motivator. And then along the line, I had people around who could play the bass teach me, senior friends. And as we grew, I started interacting with people. There is, I don't know if you know Alan Snoop. I make deliberate efforts to talk to people you see on, behind A-list artists like Fred Hammond, Kirk Franklin. I know I speak to Alan Snoop. I've spoken to Jay, Justin Rains. I've spoken to Damond, a couple of them just to make sure I'm not just on one side of the country or the world, knowing the base the way we know it here. Just being global, basically.
Wow.
So
I mean, Abraham
so
Laboriel, this generation, you guys need to go and research and find out who
I'm
Abraham
not sure they
Laboriel.
know him. They may see the hair from him along the line, but I'm not sure they like when
Mm.
you watch that guy. What you could, I don't know. I wish I could have like a one-on-one conversation with him to understand what he always has in mind every time
What's
he
on his
plays.
mind? Yeah.
You could see it's like it's his he plays with his every breath, which is how I think it should be. You know, every time we have to do something for God first, I think we should give it our best. And then that joy that we have, people should feel it every time they hear us, more so when they watch us. They should without even hearing what you're playing, they should just look at you and contract whatever joy you exude. That's why I always encourage musicians to guard their hearts, be joyful at all times, because when you press a foam, it's what you have soaked that foam in that
That
comes
comes
out.
out of
So
it.
if you're an
Yeah.
unhappy, if you're an unhappy musician, every time you play, you're literally probably passing out sad spirits, and people would even know. I just feel it's not something you can do without having your right state of mind, joyfully, especially. So yeah, that's it.
That's profound. That's profound. That's
So
profound. What you have inside is what you pass through your strings. Kai, that's
yeah, yeah.
profound. I'll send you an offering after this one. You just preached, man of God. I mean,
Yes,
so
sir.
yeah. Do you do so aside from church music? I mean, yeah, you said it. This has put food on the table. This has sustained you over the years, and I don't want to assume that it's been all church music. I know that you do sessions, I mean, live recordings with some artists and all of that. I mean, so and that can also be the career part of it. And so, if we would think of what you do in the line of career and ministry, have there been challenges in balancing the two, and how have you dealt with those challenges?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I actually forgot to mention that. I always advise most musicians to be, yes, I may be more in church, but being a gospel musician doesn't just end in the four walls of the church, like you already, mentioned. You could play songs for gospel artists right from the corner of your house, your studio in your house. You could, what's it called? You could, how do you say when you give advices? There's a word I'm looking for. You could consult. Exactly. So
Consulting, yeah.
there's a lot. There's a lot you could teach. So all of these help you, have a wider reach, basically, which I think first is the essence. Impact
Mm,
is not just about what people watch you do. Sometimes you have to be deliberate about teaching. You have to be deliberate about, trying to be in seminars and all of that. So all of that is the whole career path. Challenges, brother. If you're in music, especially in Nigeria, I don't know if it's like that everywhere. But if you ever decide to pick up music as a career, or a full ministry thing, then it's definitely going to come with its own challenges. Being that on this side we don't really have that structure, we don't have that structure that ensures that you're not um you are adequately paid for it. Right now, what's even trending is should musicians be paid? Should musicians, especially in church, not even they're not even talking about, because the secular world already has a structure. There's
mm,
no long talk. You pay for my time and all of that. But mixing service and I want to use the word gratitude, for such services in the gospel industry has been pretty much controversial and the thing. So you have challenges. There are many times I've had to trust people. Let me use a very recent one. I got a call from somebody, I think a producer in Cameroon, and he was like, "Okay, can you help me play a track on this? This is how much you charge for a track." And I said it. But I have not always been very rigid on you pay me first before I pick up the bass to play. Most times it's
it's,
after I'm done, we are happy with the takes and retakes, then you do your payments and stuff. And then it took that guy maybe 4 months to pay me that money.
after you were
So it, after I was done, we're happy with everything. He was happy. He just kept coming up with one excuse or the other. So you meet those
done. Wow.
challenges. Is it about basic bills? Let's even talk about basic bills. Eh, Right now, being just a musician, recently I was able to monetize a couple of things. My YouTube channel, hopefully my Facebook is up on that too soon. So all of that just made it a little easier than just being a church musician or a career musician in Nigeria. Because let's leave the church. If you were to depend on music, you'll be depending on tracks, playing maybe for concerts or live recordings, maybe
Yeah,
consultations, which are not very
yeah,
regular. They're not. You
yeah,
can't just wake up and say, okay, I must have 10. I may have 10 tracks. I would have 10 tracks this month. So it's not
yeah.
something you can really depend on. And other challenges, people take you for granted. Uh, I remember when I decided to do music and leave the office. A couple of my friends are factory owners now. Some of them are managers in banks. Because I did my NYSC in 2009. Yes, and I think I finished in 2010. That's a long time. So imagine being in the banking sector, and getting promoted as you should. You really be at, or being in the military,
Yeah.
you be at some very high level. So, but when you pick up music, especially in Nigeria, sometimes people just think maybe you couldn't succeed here, and that's why you pick it. So that stigma of, yeah, a musician because it's like your last option it's a very major challenge. That's why most musicians cannot go and meet people's parents, a lady's parents. Maybe now it's easier. And somebody, a woman's parents, and like, I want to marry your daughter, and they ask you, what do you do? Now say, I'm a musician.
You
Come on, leave
do.
my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, but thankfully all of that is changing now. So people looking down on you, the inconsistent, revenue, uh, you get really frustrated sometimes. You get really frustrated, and let me talk about one other frustration that is not much talked about, but very common. A lot of musicians desire to have a level of exposure, but find themselves in churches, in environments where they are not able to have that experience that can grow them. It can be very frustrating, very, very frustrating. For me, it's a big challenge. I'd recommend churches to, I don't know if it's time to talk about that, but I recommend churches to have avenues to make their musicians, I'm talking like the church musician now, have avenues to make their musicians interact with, you know, expose them to interacting with world class musicians. Some people will answer your DM. When I used to be in Koza, when you come, one of the things we always looked forward to was a foreign artist coming in. So you see me, I'm going to look at the basis. What gear did he come with? How do you do this? How do you do that? How do you do that? So I just think that was like the church's effort to expose us to those people, by way of bringing them, and then we having that level of close closure with them. So lots of challenges in Nigeria. I no go lie, you finance. Yeah, but somehow if you're consistent, you pull through it. You pull through it. You pull through it. Nothing saves you. Nothing keeps you. Nothing brings result as much as grace, hard work, consistent hard work. It's very important. Let God just meet you. Let God meet you ready. Yeah, don't be hoping and you're not putting in effort. It's it's,
Yeah.
it's I don't know. So that's it.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, it's interesting you went into the current chaos in that part of the world. I mean, I was saving it for later, but I mean, since you went there, let's talk about it. How have you felt? How do you feel when you hear that conversation going on? Like, church musicians should not be paid. Why are we paying them? God gave them the gift. They should use it for God. Why are they asking for money? What goes on in your mind when you hear those things? And now that it's even very, very out there in that part of the world.
You know, to be very honest, I think I feel hurt more than I feel angry. And why would I say I feel hurt? Um, I don't want to even talk about any scriptural backing to it. If I go to the barbering salon to cut my hair, I will need money for it. If I
Mm,
go to the filling station with my car, I will need money for it. If I send my spouse to the market to buy tomato, she will need money for it. If I send my
need
children
money,
to
yeah.
school, I
Because
will
they
need
need to
money
pay
to pay
fees.
school fees. So every time people come out to say should they be paid, I think we take out the empathy in us that says, first, these people you're talking about are human beings that just chose to give their all to a certain path so that this side of the world can also have good music. So would it make you happy that a musician stays in, he works hard, he buys materials online, he invests in buying good gears, all to just make sure that your church has one of the best bass in the world, has a professional bass player that people can talk about, or they can research your music at the end of the day and be like, ah, those guys have good musicians, they have good music. Would you be happy that you have all of that, but they're hungry, or that you probably don't even want it? Like I say, like I would always say on this issue, um, what's out there a lot is ignorance. It's ignorance, and when people are
Mm,
ignorant, I think in Nigeria especially, a lot ignorant people fight more for a cause than even the people. If you when people know stuff, they don't even come around. They just look at you once you want to start talking in a dimension that will make them talk too much. They'll just go. So on this side, a lot of people coming out to talk about shit music. So don't you pity people? Don't you? Even if these people don't ask you for money, you should be like, oh, you don't work, you don't. This is what you do to make sure that the music in this church is good, lives are blessed well, not off key blessed. They are blessed well to make sure that me as a pastor, I can say in my church, we have good worshippers. We have a good worship culture. We have, it's easy for the presence of God to come. What is Minister Dunsin? Imagine what happens when he's on stage and the people singing behind him, they are throwing off keys. He calls a song, Ebenezer, they respond with. So excellence is a deliberate thing. So even if these musicians don't talk about money, I don't think pastors should even let them go hungry. Talk more of saying, okay, it's now more of a profession. You are now angry, you want to frustrate them. I'm not, well, like I said, people have their convictions. If you are a musician and you want to be in a church and you think you should be paid and the church is not ready to pay you, and you are not ready to serve in that church, probably because you depend on payment for being a musician to survive, then you walk away. One of the most important things in this whole thing is your heart. You can be in a
mm,
place and be serving for free, but because in your heart you want them to be paying you and they're not paying you, you're grumbling. That service is a waste. You can actually
mm.
be in a place and they are paying you 5,000 naira, but you are serving like somebody who is earning 1 million naira. So I think it boils down to the heart. It boils down to the heart. I don't like that conversation. It hurts me more than it makes me angry. I'm like, come on, is it not hard enough? Why are we even talking about taking food off some people's table? There used to be a time when, as a musician, you are literally a hungry person. Once you just say you're a musician, you are there's a class that goes with it, and that class is you're either reckless, you're either stubborn, you couldn't read book, and you are definitely poor. That one is a basic. But God has done a lot now, and people, besides even what you earn, people have been able to develop themselves to the point that when you want to even sow into their lives, there's a value already. You see them at. You cannot just call somebody and say and give the person 1,000 naira. For instance, say Barrister Favor that plays for Minister Dunsin. Let me say it. You not give him 500 naira. There is already a value on him that even increases
Yeah,
that thing that you think should not be paid, but he should be honored. So let's
yeah.
just love ourselves. You want to pay, pay. If you don't want to pay, don't pay. Make it a law before you bring in musicians. Don't go and have a system where, or you, the musician, don't enter a system where they told you they won't pay and you're expecting to be paid. No,
I,
just
I like
I just
I
I just think. think that love will help us win this whole thing. That's what love and a little empathy will help us win.
I love those closing statements. I mean, make your decisions before you get in, and then let love lead. Let's talk about your gears. I
Yeah.
mean, your favorite products in bass guitars, the amps, the effect pedals, and I mean, how you so first your preference in gears, and then how have you been able to make use of these gears to create your unique sound. When I hear Koko, I know this is Koko. Sometimes I follow your current church YouTube page and I watch you guys. You guys are very, pardon me, my word, you guys are crazy. The things you guys cook up. When I'm looking at your band camp, I'm
Oh
just
God.
laughing like, hey. I mean, aside from the fact that I know all you guys, there's this joy that I
Yeah.
get watching you guys. I mean, so and when others handle the bass, I know before the video camera comes your way, I know this is not Koko. And so you have your unique sound. Talk about your preference in gears and how you've been able to make use of those particular gears to create your unique sound as Koko Bass.
Well, every musician will have their starting stage, their budget stage.
Absolutely.
You know, I used I used the cheapest gears from the start. I think as I grew, I got exposed to better gears and maybe could afford them. So right now, if you tell me play this gear, I may tell you why I cannot. Sometimes it's not even necessarily about the cost. It's about the comfort I get when I play them that helps me play better. So like people would say, it's not about the expense of the gear, it's how well you use them. But I've also grown to understand that when you get, it's just like driving a Benz, I don't know what's the latest, maybe a G Wagon, not driven it before. And then they now give you one small Toyota, a Toyota Corolla to drive, maybe a 2008 Corolla. My brother, eh, you may be a very good driver, but you cannot, you would not compare. Now, must you should you kill yourself to go and have a Benz? No, there's definitely a stage for the Corolla. If God now blesses you, you get to the G Wagon stage. But for my guests, um, I won't lie you. I won't lie to you rather. First, because of the kind of country we are in, I stopped. I started preferring buying my equipment from America. God helped me to have a couple of friends. God has helped me to have a couple of friends there that I can just beg, and I'm like, okay, buy this thing and hold. When somebody is coming, if I don't have the money to ship it, please give this person to bring. Because a couple of times I put on my status, well, if who is coming from Maryland, who is coming from New York, I have one little thing to carry. But growing up, I used the Ibanez gear, bass guitar, and then when I had small money, I moved to having a J and D brothers bass. I don't there's a bass like that. The musicians will know that the J and D bass. That was like my first professional bass. Then I moved to having another Ibanez. Then the first gear I got from the States was thanks to Ken Rollins, was a Fire Marcus Miller V7, the first generation. We used to be friends in Abuja. When he traveled, I think one of these days he carried my J and D bass, and then he mistakenly broke it. So he sent that Fire bass for me. And then when I touched his Baba T, I won't lie, you know, it was different. It was different. It
Hmm.
was more like the things I used to hear on record. You know how you listen to Fred Hammond, you hear how the bass sounds. You be like, this my Ibanez is not sounding like this.
Sounding
We
like
did
this.
not understand. Yeah, we didn't understand a lot of that until I started laying my hands on it. So when I got that fire bass, I was like, oh, I see. And then it made me want to learn slap bass. It made me want to try out a lot of contemporary music that I've always heard, and in that process, I was expanding my knowledge and stuff. So if you ask me what kind of bass guitars I like to use, first of all, very importantly, the string spacing must not be less than 18 mm. I like maple fretboard. There's some guitars you have black, they call them rosewood. black fretboards. Some of them are like, glossy whitish. That's what we call maple fretboards. So I like that. Then I love, right now I've been exposed to the electronics in your instruments is too important. That's what we call the pickup
Mm,
and the preamp. If you have them right, it works. I'm
mm.
recently falling in love with a preamp called the Ode preamp. And I encourage most people, if you can buy a cheap bass, put that preamp and somebody introduced me to the GK Plex. What's trending now is the Boss GT1. It's like a go-to pedal. If you buy it, it can work. It has different tones. But I use a GK Plex, and I don't use it to change, just to change the sound of the bass. I use it to enhance what the bass already has. So the bass has a bite. I use it to make the bite bitier. Let me use a word like that. So basically, it just has bumps on it that enhances what you already have, and then it gives the bass that roundedness. So these things contribute to my sound, but to be very honest, I am every year. Let me not say every year. Every season, the season is not tied to any time. You just shall know that there's a sound musically, just like you have Maverick City, you have change worship, you have transformation worship.
Yeah.
For musicians, there's always like a sound in the air, so I pick up these things and I'm like, okay, I like what they're doing. How do they do it? How can I sound like this? So
Mm.
you hear me playing our regular worship, but it I'm sounding like there's some foreign bases in the building. It's just
Something you have.
it's a deliberate
Yeah,
effort. It's a deliberate
I
effort,
like that.
So
Like
beyond the
that.
gears, you have to work on your sound, so that even if you carry a cheap bass, you may not sound as nice as you would if you were with an expensive bass, but you will still sound. Somebody will be like, "That's a good bass,"
You sound cute.
So
Yeah, fantastic.
that's
I
it.
mean, so your relationship with sound engineers. I mean, because it's one thing to have the good gears. I know how musicians and sound engineers. You're laughing. Take us through that. What has your relationship and experiences been like with the different sound engineers you may have worked with, different events? How have
Baba,
they
Baba, see,
frustrated your life?
I used to, I used to fight. You see, it's not now that maybe because maybe I'm old, I'm married, I'm aged, I'm 20. But see, it used to be an issue. Okay, let me walk through the generations when I was, in my music
Yeah.
journey. There was a
Okay.
of Ahuja speakers, um, those kind
Then
of
Wafdale came,
when people move from
PV came.
Wafed, they move. When a church buys Wafedel, they don't want it to
Ah,
blow their speaker.
at
So
all.
in fact, the bass is the enemy of the console. You are the one that want to blow that tweeter. They are always doing you. They are always turning you
Turn it
down.
down. Yeah.
But so to be honest, that era was always a fighting era. I can't hear myself. I can't do this. And then
Mm,
it's worse for you if you do not have a combo like a feedback for
yeah.
yourself. And then thank God we're now going to the eras of crossovers where engineers could now understood how to drive your bass, send the right signals to the right places, and not still lose their speakers. But for my experience with sound engineers, while I've had rough times, I believe that some engineers are there are several kinds of engineers. There are engineers that understand music. There are
Yeah.
engineers that are musicians. They may not be professional musicians, but they are musicians, so they could hear bass, they could hear drum in a song, they could hear lead guitar in a song. That helps them, mix music. Yeah, well, when you meet such people, you don't have to tell them, oh, the drum is louder than the bass, or the bass is louder than the drum. But one of the major challenges with engineers, whether experienced, whether good, is there's this quiet rivalry with them and musicians. They just feel musicians want to control them. And musicians also feel sound engineers want to block their shine. So there's this, but recently, in my current church, from in fact coming from Koza, I've learned, and let this be like an advice to musicians: be friends with the sound engineer. Communication is very, very key to in any good relationship. You see, it's a key tool. When the engineer is difficult, it's probably because you guys don't have a connect
Good
beyond
rapport.
meeting yourselves on stage. So sit down, talk about why he's. I go to my current sound. He's a very good sound engineer, CJ. The guy in Koza, great sound engineer, IT. I just go to them and I'm like, okay, this is what I want. I would love. Sometimes I pass materials to them. This is what I would love my bass to sound like.
To sound
Is
like.
it possible? So when you talk like this with them, they don't feel
I've pushed
threatened. They
ownership
don't
to
feel like you're. So they listen to it. Some of them get challenged. Some of them like the fact that you carry them along, and they're like, okay, let's try something. Can you go play? Let me sound check. And then that's how you build that relationship. That is not a I'll block your shine if you are proud. And you know, when musicians want to be proud, they can be very proud. And when sound engineers want to be stubborn, they can
they
mute
can
you
be
in a whole
very
session if they are angry with you, you know. So musicians build a rapport beyond I can't hear myself with your sound engineers. It will help you on and off stage. Yeah, so that's it.
so I mean, nice that you're saying these things, and I'm hoping that other musicians would take a cue from it and learn. So your music, how have you been able to maintain, again, because I know you very well. We've had very fantastic relationship over the years, and I know, I mean, it's easy for people to see musicians and just assume they're musicians. I mean, there's a stigma, or there's still that class of musicians, especially the ones who still give you guys the bad names. Once they're done playing, they drop their instrument, they are out of church. Whilst the world is going on, they're discussing Champions League
Yeah.
outside. But for you, how have you been able to maintain that part where your music is still a form of worship for you over the years?
I'll just say I'll say two things. First of all, recently somebody just put all of that in one word. Somebody said, as a musician, you're an usher. You usher in the presence of God. So when you have that mindset, one, it's very important. And secondly, um, this is off. This is on a milder but very important note. I have to tell myself that if I was in ministry, I probably had a congregation of many thousands and all of that. So the fact that I chose the days does not make me any less. Do you understand? So in my church, for instance, being a leader, you have to attend what we call like a review meeting with the pastor. And along the line, in that review meeting, you have to like say what you learned from his message in church.
Mm,
So I'll
that's
just
nice.
encourage musicians beyond playing, position yourself in things that will also grow you spiritually if you have to. You know, because if you don't do it, you may not, you may just find that you're interested in just the music you play your house. So put yourself in places where they force you to lead prayers. Put yourself in places where they force you to do small Bible study before rehearsal. Just this is on a an unofficial this is like an unofficial advice, but very important to our everyday life. It now makes you that 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 obligation now exposes you to spiritual growth and now makes you feel that I'm not just a musician, I'm a minstrel. It comes to some spiritual responsibilities. I must be like this, I must live like this, and all of that to be able to still be, you know, that vessel that God intends us to be. So because most times when you go to church, you just think you're supposed to be the musician, you leave. They say, come and pray, you run. Read Bible, you run. Do this, you run. You're not going. At the end of the day, you can be in the place 5 years and you're just a musician there. You can also go. You're still a bass, but it doesn't stop you from being grounded spiritually.
All right.
It doesn't.
All right. Before we run, a
Very
few more questions. Before we run, let's talk about synergy. What's your perception on and about synergy between musicians and singers within the same music team, especially in church music? What's the importance of synergy? What's your perception about synergy? How has it worked for you over the years in the different choirs that you've worked
So let's talk about synergy from the spiritual point. Bible says a house divided against itself cannot stand.
with? We're not.
All right. So anywhere you just find, anywhere you find that people don't work towards, it's okay to come different ideas. It's okay to come not agreeing over months, over maybe 2 years. But if you guys continue and not find yourselves being able to go beyond your differences and become a team, you are likely not going to succeed as a team. So synergy is key. Synergy is key. Beyond, besides, or beyond, fellowshipping together musically, spiritually, you must get to the point where if the singers hear something, they know what to do. I'll give an instance. When this whole melody thing came out, when you all of that with the whole AJL stuff, we put them basically in at interlude moments. Maybe a singer wants to sing, the person was already planning to change his song, and we deemed it fit as a musician that was a very good place to put a melody line, and we put it once a singer who really understands what we're doing hears it, they put a pause or bring a
It's time
chant
to
at that
transit.
point and let the music build. So that synergy is, then the musicians on their part understanding when to follow and not always want to, outshine, the singers is key. You can't downplay synergy. Synergy is so real that you can be playing as a bassist with a drummer and you want to do so. Okay, the new keyboardist in my church is maybe like a year. So there are moments in my church where we do this whole ambience thing, like somebody is just talking, charging, and then we're just doing ambience. And then I put my mouth to the mic to say a note, and I'm looking at him. He's the one that normally calls notes, and I want to say a note, and I'm just waiting to see, and then he calls exactly, and I'm not talking about one note,
Exact
maybe
same
three
note.
notes, a 3 note sequence. He calls. So that is what synergy now. That is for an ambient session. Imagine what happens when we play the same thing as the
Full
singers.
music.
Worship, understanding worship moments, understanding when to leave room for an interlude, understanding when to call for ambience, understanding when it's okay to go off your plan and follow the energy the musicians bring, as well as the musicians going off their plan and following the energy. It's I would encourage everything to work towards that. And to be honest, some of these things come with one, the help of the Holy Spirit. Then secondly, experience. What do I mean by experience? You guys must work together for some time. That's why when even Nigerian football team where you have players who have played last year, but because they are in different clubs on different routines, they bring them back, train them, make them train together for some time before matches. They played before, but they had to bring them and align their mindsets and everything. So without synergy, no music team survives. You guys have been in choirs where the singers are going this way, culture wise, when like worship culture. They are going this way culture wise. The musicians are busy. So it's just let me give a typical a layman's example. Your singers are all tilted towards singing only Dulani's music, and your musicians are all tilted towards playing only uh, Sumi Sola's music. There must be a point of agreement. All those small
Yeah.
goals, those things people will sit down together, put them out, prayerfully put them out, and then talk about them and drive. When I was in Koza, me and Sonny, we used to pick. This is for musicians now. We used to pick materials, share. Me, the keyboardist, the drummer, we share, and then when Sonny is doing something, because I know where that is coming from. I know what the bassist should be doing at the time the drummer is doing what the bassist is doing. And then this whole open thing that came from third and rest, and then we introduced it to our singers. So it became a team that worked together. The result was something else. And that's why most times, I say this with every humility, I could pick a team. Like when I left Koza and I got to Streams of Joy, the people I had to play with were like my juniors when I was in Koza. The drummer was like a junior team. All of them, we came together. AJL was the junior team in Koza. But I understood the importance of having a vision, having everybody see together and working towards it. So it doesn't matter it doesn't matter what you cannot do. Once you know that you cannot do it, but the vision requires it, you learn it. You understand? So it just makes everybody stay on the same page. Synergy is not you can't downplay. Without it, that was a struggle. You guys will be struggling. So that's it.
Yeah, about 2 more questions, and we'll wrap up this episode. What's your perception about? There's been a lot of imports of, I heard a preacher say, and I agreed with him, that the opposite of Christian or gospel music is not secular, and his reasons were there are jobs that are secular, banking, being a doctor, a nurse, a pharmacist, and all of those things are secular jobs. So as far as it's concerned, if it's not a Christian music, it's a worldly or carnal music. So if we would use that analogy, and we've also seen a lot of imports. Yeah, we've seen a lot of imports of the carnal or the worldly music in the church, especially by musicians. What's your take? What's your perception? I mean, why don't we sit down to create our own music, and we just want to import from that side? Yeah.
So I won't lie. Maybe at some point too, I've been guilty of that. Every musician, unless you have not been involved in shared sessions and the rest, somehow you find yourself just touching one or two. But like I said earlier, creativity needs time and it needs resources. So when you have a musician in your church who you don't pay, but he gets paid by P Square, so he's coming from P Square's sessions, and maybe he's free to attend your Sunday service because he's the only guy that volunteers and he can do it, of course, and because you are not ready to pay, he's not ready to ask you for money. He will just volunteer knowing that he earns from P Square. What will happen? What do you expect from there? So I think one of the challenges, one of which is because of this whole the church cannot pay go and make money anyhow you can. Musicians have put their hands in, like I said, music. It becomes a job and the official basis for P Square. I know a lot of P Square music at the end of the day, and I'm in your choir. There's a likelihood that a lot of inspiration will come from that place. So let's even address this whole thing from that root. These people spend their time creating beer and music, and they don't just spend time; they spend money too. The studio session gathering musicians is a lot of money. I know churches where your musicians tell the pastor they want to rehearse. They will tell them that there's no diesel, there's no this. It's only in church. 90% of the time, you see people coming 20 minutes, they want to go home. We don't like spending quality time to prepare. Probably because we coin the Holy Spirit will help you, or leave
Help
room
you.
for the Spirit of God. So we don't
Glory of the
we
Lord
don't
provide.
spend time preparing, and you, if you don't see, preparation are of different stages. You prepare to know the basics, then you, in that process of preparing, you evolve into creating. So you don't just it's that's why rehearsals, you cannot downplay with that personal rehearsals or as a team, because you must know the basics first before you now start talking about creating. Do you understand? We don't spend that much time. We just enter the front of there's this analogy about worship, outer court, inner court, holy of holies. So we just enter from the outer court. We're already running back to our various houses or our various jobs. That's not where creativity is. If you see a team that spends, we don't meet, um, and this is not to brag, because I think we can be way better than we are now. We have our own challenges, but we meet on Thursdays and we spend a minimum of 5-6 hours preparing. Five on the go. Now we have 4 services, so that may not be very adequate. So imagine putting 5 hours for a service, and you guys put your hearts to it. Forget those days. It used to be. If you hear any good music outside, it used to be digital keyboard. Now somebody will just be playing
Mhm.
digital keyboard for the bands and the rest. Sorry to mention names. Like that time, until recently, when the whole live band thing started being real in Nigeria's, secular music world, or let me not use that word secular, like they say, worldly music world. Who were the people that started making up those bands? Church musicians.
Church boys.
They were not getting
Church boys.
exactly, so they left. So this creativity actually started from the church and moved to the place where they could find a living. Now the church is almost void of good creatives. They are all out there making money. The few ones that have time to come to the church will bring what they used to make money into the church. So either way, whether I like it or not, the church still has to find a way to invest in the spiritual lives of their musicians, so that they can come to the place where they can decide and say, I don't want to collect money. God has told me. It's a relationship thing. It's not something you force on people. Say you are a musician, you must not collect money. You must not. If the person tells you what they do to improve music, my bass guitar is $2,200.
Wow,
That's
wow.
over 3.6 million. Yes, over 3.6 million. If anything happens to that bass in church, I'm not sure anybody will answer me. So that's a huge. My pedal is about $600. That's close to how much already? Almost. So if they tell you what they do to keep themselves good, just so that God can get good music, it's a lot. It's a lot. So my advice, to curb bringing in things from the world, create an environment where musicians can have time to pray, rehearse, rehearse. There's something about music. You've worked with Minister Johnson. Spending time is where you get things. It's not his songs. Shabina from in private prayers, personal
Mm-hmm.
time with God, as they hear, they bring. The same thing with music. If you guys see, I found I don't pray, beg God, say God, I beg. This shows our won't do. We know say we this skillful, but we could hear your heart. Let's hear the heart of heaven. Let's hear the sound you want us to play. And then you people put in the work. As soon as they play, things go they come. That's how you manage to hear people, this guy is doing something that nobody has done. Now God release them to them. So I just feel we're not spending enough time. And the world is, Nigeria especially, is already very difficult. If you're not a dogged person with anything you do, it's not just music, mechanic, electric. If you're not dogged, you'd find yourself leaving one thing to go and learn another thing, to go and learn another thing, just so that you can meet up the bills. And a jack of all trades, you may end up being the master of none. So
Wow.
my advice,
Wow.
spend time as a team. Spend time. You guys will, there's nothing, it's not, it's music now. The church has it. all the people they play outside where you say they were all church musicians at one point, you know. So let's spend time. That's where it is. Praying and then asking God to praying and then rehearsing. Rehearsing. We don't rehearse again. I'm setting up a workshop session. Let me say my market a bit. In like 3 weeks or so in this Abuja, I'm going to do a workshop. I want to interact with this generation of musicians. I called Abraham Laboriel. I can count the number of bases that will know him now. Because the kind of music that is out there currently is not what we grew up knowing. What we grew up
I
knowing
hear
could,
you.
by the time you are done with being in a choir at that, during our time, you would have been a very experienced musician. Then you now start applying that to simple music and all of that. But right now, I'm not sure these guys even know this music enough to be able to stand. I was telling my friend the other day, if you bring a teenager musician in Nigeria, bring a teenager musician in America, and you saw Judah challenge. I love my Nigerian drummers. I love them a lot. But by the time Americans started putting their hand in that challenge, the difference
The
was clear. You
approach
could
was
take it
crazy. The approach
faster,
was crazy.
brother. The precision was too much.
The approach was
So some of
even
them
in
even
their
started
energy.
taking tempos up.
Even with the energy, I mean, it was like, okay, they're just having fun. I saw it. I saw that.
So if we're not careful,
Mm.
the generation of of Felix Jackson. He plays for
Yeah,
Nathaniel.
that's
Uh,
what I'm asking. Yeah.
that's one. I've known him over time, but that's one musician I respect. Nathaniel's music may not be very difficult, may not be very technical. They are pretty simple, even his live ministrations. But you still find Felix going back, picking up songs that would exercise his musicianship, playing them. He does covers of those gospel songs. Sometimes he just puts out his rehearsals. You know, I wish this generation would understand that balance is very important. It doesn't matter the artist you play for. It's okay. Nobody is saying you are playing for Yinka, Alai. Sorry, I hope that's her name.
I like
Her
Jerry.
music is Fuji. It now means
Mm.
that you cannot. You are destined to be just a Fuji musician. No, So let's just spend time. We'll create. Creativity is in a place of dedication, consistent dedication. That's what it is. Nothing else. If we don't spend time, we'll
Fantastic.
be looking for who has done to copy and do. That's it.
I hear you. My last question to you will be on longevity and relevance. I mean, it's amazing. You're still mentioning Abraham Laboriel till now. I mean, so longevity and relevance. What do you think musicians can do that, aside from growing old in age, can still keep
Yeah.
them relevant? I've seen videos of Abraham Laboriel, even right now in his old age. Sometimes he
Mm,
enters music
mm,
shops and he picks guitars,
mm,
and I'm like, sir, this
mm.
man is old, but man, Abraham Laboriel is still Abraham Laboriel. So, what do you think? And what are you also doing for yourself to keep you relevant? I mean, in years to come.
Okay, so like I said, when you press a foam, is what is in that foam, what you soak the foam in that comes out.
Mm,
I
yes.
would advise every musician to be as grounded as possible. Most times you don't when you wake up in the morning and eat, you're not eating for that moment that you're eating. You are eating so that it will sustain you. When you go to school, when you go to learn something, you are learning it so that you use it in the future. So if you want to last long, one of the things you must do is learn now. Learn now. Know as much as you can know now. Because there would always be a time that you'll be required to do something. And if you don't know it,
Yeah.
You won't be able to do it. And if you are not able to do it, they won't be calling you. And if they are not calling you, you will fizzle out. So it's grace, then it is learning. It is in learning. At
Mm.
every chance you get, learn. Now, let me say this one. They are all my friends. They are younger boys to me, most of them. But you say, Koko, how do you manage to still sound this, that, that? Let me tell you what I learned last week. There's this guy trending in Logic Church, the bassist, Leo. He plays with SMG. So he has this
Yes.
very beautiful African approach to bass. I picked up I picked up something he did, and I was like, okay, if this guy is if he's if he fits into this rhythm and the general music sounds good, I could learn something from him. And I decided to learn that thing. I did it. I used it in church today. I'll soon put out the videos. And when I put out the videos, I know that it's that place I'll post. I know that people will come and shout. Now, but what does that do for me? I could sit down and say, "No, they are young boys. I played, or I still can play," and overlook the importance of learning what is learnable. Is it
And get,
is it a crime
yeah.
to learn? First of all, it's not a crime. If my son comes to me now and says something that I did not know and I learn it, it doesn't make me stop. I don't stop being his father for learning
Exactly.
something
Yeah.
from him. I only add knowledge to the ones I have that he doesn't have. So it makes me taller. Longevity is learning. Learn now. As you grow, learn. Learn what's happening. Learn what it
Mm.
is that is out there in your
Mm.
career. They bring out, if you're a phone technician now, for instance, an iPhone 16 is out, and you don't go and know how to repair iPhone 16. By the time everybody is using iPhone 16, and your next door technician is an iPhone 16 repair, even though you were the best at iPhone 15, but you cannot do iPhone 16, everybody will move to your next door guy. He may not have been relevant yesterday, but because he now knows how to do 16, and you don't. So what's the
Yeah.
difference between you and that guy at that point? You didn't learn. So I tell people, well, after you pray to God, help me, so that I always know what to do at every point. That thing is, there's a part of the Bible that says the Holy Spirit would always whisper. I think I'm paraphrasing. Would always whisper in your ear and tell you which way to go. It's literal.
This is the way to.
It's literal.
Mm.
We get stuck in doing the same thing over and over, and then you even get frustrated. You're not like, what do I do? What next? I don't know. It happens to most musicians. You're not like, okay, what do I do? But something just tells you, do this, do this. You have God in you, and you know that's God talking to you. As you do it, first you feel leave impact first. You just feel refreshed, like, hey, I've been clogged. Something just left. I'm open now. Then you now start seeing the results. So you cannot take out the fact that every musician, if I mean every musician in life, every human being in life, more so the ones in church, need the Holy Spirit to always tell them, this is the way to go. That is the way to go. That's the one you never miss with that. You never miss. See, if this thing I'm saying, even with
Yeah.
when you are playing on stage, many people think, look at the music we do. We end up, maybe you can do 4 African praise in one Sunday. In that 4 African praise, they can repeat a particular song maybe three times at 3 different points in the 4 sessions. But you may never hear me sound the same. Do I plan it?
Mm.
I'm not going to tell you that in the rehearsal we
Yeah.
did all the songs without details. But I think God has always helped me to know what to play, by trying to fit in properly in my role in the music and help the music go. So it's important. It's not just about even learning. It's about when you are even executing. It's important that you follow the leading of the Holy Spirit. It's very important. Very, very important. Very important.
Yeah,
You just
yeah.
somebody sent me material. Yes, sent me material yesterday and said, "What was this you did?" I kid you not. It should still be on my phone. I'll look for it. When did I send it? I was like, when did I play this? I like me. I liked
You
it
liked what you heard.
I liked it like I just heard it. I
Wow,
didn't think.
wow,
I'm not sure I would do that on a normal day. They sit down and put a riff at this point of the song. That's just God.
wow,
So you want to stay relevant,
wow.
learn now, keep learning even when you think you have arrived. Many people, one of the challenges we have in this generation, once they have 20,000 followers on Instagram, they start rating themselves with the Abraham Laborel and the rest. They start thinking they are not teachable. Once you stop being teachable, you have stopped going. So, and it's just time you
I
stop being
hear
relevant.
you. Yeah, you mentioned earlier that you're hoping to be able to meet with Abraham Laborel. As long as God still keeps him here with us. My last question to you will be: who is that one artist or music minister in the world that you would really love to play with if you have the opportunity now?
That's big.
It's-
Okay, so to be very honest, right? To be very very honest, I have a couple of them. I love Todd Delaney's expression. I love his expression of worship. I love Todd Delaney's expression of worship. But I'm a little dicey on this issue because maybe that's why I'm not also an artist person. I could feel him, but if you ask me to be honest now, there's a church I'm so loving. If I'm not able to play in Transformation Church, it's not the church now, it's the music.
the music,
Then I
yeah.
should be able to, I should have the opportunity to be with Change Church. Now, why do I say that? In Change Church, you have a touch of Dunsin, you have a touch of Kodulani, you have a touch of Sandlamo, you have a touch of, and, and to be honest, the experience you gather being that versatile is priceless. That's why I can come and play for Bros. Comfortably sitting, not 100%, but try. And you find me with Buchi tomorrow because we do reggae in church, we do worship in church, we do everything we need to do. So if you ask me, it's not an artist. It will be a system I would like to be in. If I have the chance, I would really, really love to be in Transformation Church or Change Church. They should just let me just come and be playing their music services and come back to start
Okay, what
again.
church? Correct. Yeah, you were talking about hosting a seminar soon, and I know that because they say internet never forgets, there are young bass players who would come across this video way after you are done with that seminar. How can they connect with you? What are your social media handles? You have email addresses that they can just reach out to you. Because hearing all of these things you're saying, I just imagine some young bassists would want to connect and say, I just want to learn from him. So how can they get to connect with you before we wrap up?
Okay, so on Instagram, I am official Koko Bass. On YouTube, Koko Bass TV. On Facebook, Koko Bass. On TikTok, Koko Bass. The only challenge is that with every humility, sometimes your DMs get maybe full, and then for people who you probably don't follow back, their messages go
Get
to
their messages.
your message request. So you don't have to. Most times, I deliberately go there to just be sure that I'm not missing out on something, very important. And but beyond social media, which is why I think it is important that we have this, forum for physical meetings. Because you may not have the time to respond to text and satisfy them with the kind of responses that would help them via text and even phone calls. But having these hangouts here and there now, every now and then, would give them people to prepare their questions, come out to them
Yeah.
finish talking about you. You show them practical. I'm not going to be. I'm not even going to be doing it alone. I'll be doing it with a couple of other people so that people can see, get answers from from various people and let them know be a cool thing. There are questions I may not be able to answer. I don't know everything.
Yeah.
Somebody else, maybe business will be there to gladly, help out. But it will just be about it, and it's for everybody: drummers, keyboardists, even singers. You talked
That
about
means you
synergy
want
today,
to take
and
that periodic, yeah? That
yes,
means
yes, yes.
it's
It
something
is not
you're
going
going
to
to be doing
be.
back to back.
It is not. Yes, it is not going to be every other month, like every 2 months. We may just make it a quarterly meeting, so it's
Okay.
3 times a year or 4. But it's something that has to be, so that we can monitor progress. Yeah, so you come this week, we talk this month, we talk about a lot. By the time you're coming next time, your questions are more advanced. We see results from what we helped you out with, or what God helped us to help you out with the previous one. And just building that synergy. I really have the burden to not let this generation of musicians not be able to stand out there and be global.
Mm.
I'm that burdened. I just feel that to get to a point where they won't be able to stand outside and say I'm a musician and be able to, even us with a lot of struggle experience, you get where we go, no go, let's go hide somewhere because this, music culture is very advanced out there. So in the course of doing this, I hope we too will go to that point where we can present people and say, this is a Nigerian basis, and he can stand by an American basis and know what is basic about music, and not be like when they say, hey, so what did you say? So we are just trying to bridge the gap between our generation and this generation of musicians.
Fantastic. I mean, there you have it, young bassist. Check his page. I'm sure he'll be dropping information about those hangouts periodically on his page. I mean, you can then take advantage of it. Koko Bass, thank you for being my guest
Thank
on
you
this
so much.
episode. I mean, I'm feeling like a
An
bassist
honor.
already, so thank you, thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
And one of these days, I mean, we'll find out a session where I'm going to have you, a drummer, and maybe a keyboard player. We'll have a hangout on an episode like this, and then we just talk music from your different
Amazing.
perspectives. And I mean, who knows? You guys
Amazing.
might sit with your instruments at a different location, and then you just do
Yeah.
some shared session
I
live and direct.
agree.
We'll plan something.
I agree.
Yeah. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
sir.
Have a wonderful
Thank you for having
night
me.
where you are. Gentlemen, see you on the next
Thank you.
episode. Bye.